Hello, and welcome to this session about decision making for higher education. We are from the Higher Education Progression Partnership, HEP, and HEP is jointly funded by Sheffield Hallam University and the University of Sheffield. We visit lots of schools speaking to students across the region just like you, and we're here to provide you with some information to help you make informed choices about your future. This session will cover understanding how to make a good decision, understanding the impact of good decisions can have, and applying our decision-making skills to future educational choices as well as GCSE options and beyond. So what is higher education? Higher education is when you work towards getting a qualification post 18 years old. And qualifications like these can be gained from three places. The first one is universities. So there's two I've mentioned already, University of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam University, but there's universities up and down the country that offer higher education courses. They might be the one you're most familiar with. You might have seen universities depicted in TV shows and on films, but there's other places you can gain higher education qualifications from too. One of these places are certain colleges. So in our region, for example, R&N in Rotherham, Barnsley College, the Sheffield College, all offer higher education qualifications. So if you want to do your degrees or higher education qualifications at a more local setting, that could be a good route for you. Another place you can gain a higher education qualification is through doing a degree apprenticeship. Now, degree apprenticeships are where you work and study at the same time. So you might be studying in a university or in a college, but you're working a full-time job at the same time. Therefore, these typically take a little bit longer to complete than your average university or college course, just because you're doing that full-time work. But they're a good way, if you know exactly what job you want to do, then that could be a really good option for you, that you just do a degree apprenticeship in it. You're getting on-the-job training in the workplace and then going to do a course or doing a class in something that's going to help you in doing that job. There are currently over 400 higher education providers in the UK, so that's over 400 universities and colleges offering higher education qualifications, and there's over 50,000 courses to choose from. That means that higher education is for everybody, because have a think about it, you might have 10 to 15 subjects that you currently study in school, 50,000 different choices when it comes to higher education. So that means that you can do subjects that you do in school as a higher education course. So if you want to do a maths degree, history degree, art degree, sport degree, then you can do. But if you have a hobby, even if it's a really niche hobby, there might be a higher education course in there for you. So now we're going to have a look at how you get from school, where you are now, to higher education. So you're at school from when you're 11 till when you're 16, which is when you do your GCSEs, and then have to choose your next steps for further education. So you can do further education in one of three places. You can do it at a sixth form. These are typically attached to a school. Not always. In our region, we've got some standalone sixth form colleges. These are typically slightly smaller. They offer A-levels and more academic courses, alongside a range of other courses too. Every sixth form is a bit different. If you really like your teachers and they're the people that are going to teach you at your school sixth form, then it might be a really good idea to stay on at your school sixth form if that's something that you want to do. Then you've got colleges. Colleges tend to be bigger institutions, and they tend to offer a much wider range of courses. So you can still do things like A-levels, but they offer typically more vocational courses, T-levels, BTECs, Cambridge Technicals, things like that you might see at a college. They also tend to be a little bit more like the university environment, so you usually wear your own clothes, you don't have to wear a uniform, you might call your teachers by their first names rather than their surnames. And then you've got apprenticeships. So like we were talking about apprenticeships before for when you're 18, you can also do an apprenticeship when you're 16. And that's again that mixture of working and studying at the same time. Then you have to stay in school or college or doing an apprenticeship until you're 18, at which point you can either go straight into work or you can go to higher education. You have to be 18 to go to higher education, But you don't have to go when you're 18. You can choose to work for a little bit, for a couple of years maybe, and then go to higher education. Some people have a whole career in the workplace and then decide to have a career change, or just because they fancy it, they go and do a degree when they're a bit older. So at each point on that journey map that we've just gone through, you have multiple choices. So how do you make a good choice? How do you make a good decision? When we face with a simple choice, it can just come down to what we feel like choosing. So, for example, if you've got to choose between sweets or crisps, it could just be you choose sweets because that day you've got a sweet tooth and that's what you fancy. But life is rarely that simple. There's usually other things that you have to consider. So, for example, you might only have 50p and the sweets are 99p, so you might have to go with the crisps that day. There's also lots of other influences. So the sweets and crisps might cost the same, but now you're in the shop with your friends and they all want the crisps. So would that sway you if you really fancy some sweets, but all your friends were getting crisps? Would that sway you, and would you get crisps too? That can sometimes influence us. You've got to listen to others too. So you might want sweets, but there might only be 2 bags to choose from. They cost the same, and you've never tried either of the brands, but you've heard one of them is really good, and it's got like awards and things like that, or lots of people talk about them, or they're really trending. So would you pick those? It's a different day, and today you're fancying crisps. Your 2 favourite types are the same price, but one has an offer. So, for example, one could have 2 free cinema tickets if you buy this packet of crisps. Would that sway your decision between the 2 different types of crisps? So we've talked about sweets and crisps quite a lot. And how does making decisions about snacks apply to your educational choices? Well, if we have a look at in terms of the price of the snack, that can be kind of equivalent to what grades you get. So the grades that you get can give you more options. So like if we had £1, we'd be able to have the sweets, but because we only have 50p, we only have the crisps. So your grades work in a similar way. So if you get more grades, if you get higher grades, then you can have more choice. It's important to make independent choices about the snacks that we choose from. So while in a pretty low-key situation where you are choosing between sweets and crisps, being influenced by your friends might be fine, but it's really important to make sure that you're making an independent choice when it comes to your educational choices, because what your friends like and what your friends are good at and what your friends might want to do as their job in the future might be different to what you want to do. Recommendations and reviews are also really important. So like the sweets that had their award, sometimes looking at recommendations and reviews can really help you make a decision. So for example, if you're thinking about sixth forms, colleges or universities, it might be that, oh, I know somebody that's been to this university or been to this college and then really liked it. Or it could be the opposite. You could hear a really bad review about a college or a sixth form. And then in terms of when we talked about the cinema tickets, how does that relate? So that relates to additional benefits. So it could be if I go to this sixth form, it's closer to home, or it could be if I go to this university, they'll give me a bursary or a scholarship or some free money if I go to this university. Or it could be that you can stay on at your part-time job if you go to a specific place, or it could be that this course at this university offers you to study abroad, while a course at a different university might not. So there's lots of other additional benefits that might sway your decision making. And the best way to choose the right path, all of these stages of the education map, is to know yourself. So know how you learn and things like that. And we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail now. So firstly, what are you interested in? So this can mean several things. This could be, have you got a favourite subject at school? Or is there one bit of a subject that you did 2 years ago that you're like, that's the bit of the subject that I'm really interested in? There might be a higher education course in this for you. Is it that you've got a hobby outside of school that you really like, that you really enjoy, that gives you a lot of joy, that you're like, I wonder if there's a job, or I wonder if there is a higher education qualification that I can do in this hobby that I really enjoy outside of school? Is there something that you want to be when you're older? Have you got a specific job in mind that you've seen and you're like, yeah, I think I'd like to do that job when I'm older? And then you can kind of work back from that. So you can say, okay, I want to do this job. How do I get to that job? Do I need to do a specific course at higher education? Is there a specific course? So for things like medicine, for nursing, for teaching, there are specific qualifications. But there might not be. It could just be experience in this, or a degree in this kind of thing, or a degree where you have to write reports. And then you can sort of work backwards and say, okay, well, these are the things I need to do to get that specific career. Secondly, how do you like to study? How do you like to learn? Do you like to read? Are you a big reader? That really impacts on what course you do. If you don't like to read, if you hate having to read lots of stuff, then potentially some courses out there aren't for you and you'd find it just really boring. Are you a practical learner? Do you like it when things are explained to you practically and you get to try it out? That's a really good thing to know. Do you like listening to people tell you stuff? Do you like listening and taking notes? Or do you like classroom discussions where you can argue and debate? Do you like doing research? Do you like investigating something? Can you go online and find out all this information when somebody's got a really specific question about something? Do you want to write? Do you like writing? Do you like getting all of your ideas down on paper? These are all things to consider because every course is a little bit different, so it's important to know how you like to study and learn. Thirdly, how would you like to be assessed? So unlike school, at higher education, there's lots of different assessment methods. So that can be exams, that can be essays, that can be written reports, that can be group projects, that can be presentations, that could be lab work and experiments, that could just be contributions to class. Some courses you get a mark for how well you contribute to a class. So if you are really against exams and you just don't want to do exams, you can have a look at what courses offer alternative methods of assessment. And finally, what do you want to do as a career? Do you know yet? If you do, like I said before, you can work backwards and then figure out what it is that you need to do to get to that career. But if you don't, or if you maybe know what kind of thing you don't want to do, or a field that you may be interested in doing, you can do some investigative work and figure out what is it that I need to kind of get into that field. If you don't know at all, then that's absolutely fine too. And like we've said with the other elements of the puzzle, it's just about knowing what you enjoy. Because if there's something you enjoy, you're more likely to do well in it and to have a good time while you're doing it. And that's really important at higher education. So all these pieces of the puzzle add up to knowing yourself and making the right decisions for you. The piece of the puzzle that you might not know, the bit about which career you might want to do, that's absolutely fine. But you can figure out the other three pieces of the puzzle. It's really important to know yourself and to make sure that you're not choosing something just because somebody's told you that you should do it or because your friends are doing it. It's important to think, am I really going to enjoy this? Is this what I want to do? We're now going to talk a little bit about why GCSE choices are important. So this is the first educational decision that you'll come across when you're in year 8 or year 9. And it is really important because your GCSEs can have an impact on your future educational choices too. So we've got an example here of the entry requirements for doing a psychology degree at the University of Northampton. So how does this relate to GCSEs? Because it tells you in terms of what you need to get for your A-levels there, but what does it mean in terms of your GCSEs? If you look in the small print on this web page, it says that you need GCSE maths at a grade 4 or C or equivalent qualifications. So that means that to do a degree, they're also taking into account your GCSEs. We've got another example here. So for the University of Lincoln, to do maths, we've got the A-levels and some other information on this web page. But if we look in the small print, it also says that the applicants need at least 3 GCSEs at grade 4 or C or above, and that must include English and maths. So all of these places are telling you that you need to do specific things in your GCSEs too. Another example, this is psychology at UCL, so this is University College London. This is a really top university. As you can see, they've got much higher A-level grades there. In the small print here, you have to have GCSEs in English language, mathematics and 2 sciences at grade B or 6, so that's a much higher GCSE grade that you need to have. So this shows you that it's really important to make the right choices when it comes to your GCSEs and to work hard. So the better grades you have, the more choices you have. So think about what you're good at and what you enjoy, because these two usually go hand in hand, and then getting the better grades won't be as difficult if it's something that you enjoy. And remember all the tips we've gone through today about how to make a good decision. So in this session, we've learned how to make a good decision. We've learnt about the impact of good decisions, we've learnt how to apply these to future educational choices, and we've begun to think about our decisions for GCSEs and beyond. So what's next? Speak to a teacher if you have any questions after this session. They should be able to answer your questions, and if not, they can ask us in HEP. And have fun learning new things in your subjects. This helps you, like we've been saying, decide which subject you might want to study at GCSE and beyond. It's a really important part of decision making is figuring out what you enjoy. Here are some useful websites that might give you some more information, and you can find us across all the different social media platforms too. Thank you for listening today. I hope this has been useful.